Hi, everybody. Welcome back. We are here for day 5 of our LAC Summit. And it's great to see so many people back again here to share the learning. Before we jump in with today's session, I just want to take a moment to tell you a bit about this summit and why we're doing it. So my name is Emma Burns. I am the Professional Learning Coordinator at Consilience Learning, which is the organization that runs the Learning Analytics Collaborative, who's sponsoring this event. And if you're not already aware, I just want to let you know a little bit about the LAC and what we do. If you have any questions after this, please feel free to reach out and we can organize a demo call. So as you can see, the LAC is both a platform and a service for schools that want to use learning analytics to transform. Our mission is really to support you to build cultures of data use. And the way we do that is we help schools to use data to make an impact. So we start by collecting all the data that you have in your school. And that's not just the academic data, it's also the demographics, the well-being data, everything that your school collects. And we know that our schools are so data rich. And then we collaborate with you to figure out the best way to present that data as information. Then we teach users how to use that information. So we provide a lot of protocols and tools so that your whole school community can gain insight about your learners. We have over 100 visualizations in our platform, and each one has been customized to answer the questions that schools have. So we have dashboards for teachers who want to see their class and different assessments. We've got dashboards for specialists, like learning support specialists, for example, who want to see the impact of their interventions. We've got high-level aggregate dashboards for administrators, boards of directors, HR teams, people like that. And we have dashboards for parents and students so that they can see individual student learning results over time. We've got over 50 schools in our collaborative, and they're from all over the world. And we're all about sharing the learning. So when one school develops a new protocol or a new visualization for an assessment, we share that information with other schools so that everyone can learn and everyone can grow. We do that by publishing a lot of case studies, sharing our protocols at conferences, and of course, running a virtual summit, which is an opportunity for the schools to come and share where they're at in their data journey. And one person who I'm really excited to hear about their data journey is Dr. Chandra McGowan, our guest this morning. She is the head of school at the Canadian International School in Vietnam. And she's going to be talking about shaping school identity. And I'm so excited for this conversation because she and I go way back, and we're going to have a great chat this morning. So handing over to you, Dr. Chandra.
Thank you, Emma, for such a lovely introduction. And yeah, I'm excited about this. And thank you for the invitation to be here today. I'm just going to find my slides and share them. But yes, we decided to really kind of talk this through a little bit podcast style because Emma and I know each other so well, and we think it might be more meaningful to everybody to hear us both learn at the same time.
Well, I'm curious to see how having worked with you in 2 schools now, I'm really curious to see how when you go to a new school, you figure out that identity piece again. Yeah, so I'm excited to learn from you in this one.
Thanks. So can you see my screen?
I can.
Yes. All right. So we're off to a good start. So as you said, so a little bit about why I wanted to join. So unfortunately, not yet are we a LAC school, but I am very hopeful that we will soon one day become an LAC school, because at the moment, we're really in the journey of our school, we're really starting to shape more systems. So where I entered the school just this school year was at the very beginning of our journey. And what I really wanted to do was think about school identity. And this presentation is slightly different maybe from others because it really focuses on qualitative data, not much on numbers at all. So that is my introduction. So my hope was to have a bit of a dialogue. Thank goodness there's someone here to talk to about these questions. I thought about, okay, if anyone watches this, what questions should we really answer here? And I really want to talk a little bit about why values matter, why leaders should share their values with their staff, because that's so critical, as you know, Emma, to shape school culture. Also, why should schools articulate shared values? How can AI support me in this? And maybe what will we do next? So is there any questions you think we should add to that, Emma, that you're curious about?
No, I think that looks great.
Okay, I also want to show off my gorgeous students here. That's all of them at our book fair last week. So not all of them, 4 of them at our book fair last week. So yeah, we have our school size is about 825 students at the moment. We are an DP school and we also offer the Ontario kind of diploma. So we're a little bit unique in that way. So starting with, do you hear the singing of happy children? Can you hear that?
Can't hear that.
All right, good. They're walking to recess now. So I'd like to start here, as Emma has seen me talk about this before, and we've talked about this on both personal and professional levels, is how important it is to really think about values. And so as a leader, I'm always grappling with the idea that like identity is constantly under construction. We are constantly getting better and smarter, and we're learning about ourselves, we're learning about our identity. And what's really interesting is that we judge ourselves by our intentions, our identity, our values, but we judge others by their actions. So it's really interesting because this is kind of the root of conflict. When we don't know someone's intentions and we see an action, we judge them based on our own intentions and actions. So I always feel like as a leader, it is my duty to inquire into others, parents, students, staff. What do they value? What are their intentions guiding their important work? And who do they see themselves as in this, conversation of education? So it's quite exciting to me. So that is why I believe, hello, new participants, thanks for coming. So that is why I believe it's important to really share as a leader your own identity, intentions, and values. So I'd like to stop here and ask audience members, what are your where are you in your journey with talking about your values or understanding your own values? Have you thought about this before, or are you like an expert in thinking about this? So what brought you here today around the idea of values? Emma?
Yeah, I'm thinking with my LAC hat on. Hi, Lana. And I'm thinking that we often set ourselves up as a service for school. So we're often saying, what do you need? What do you value? We'll show that. But I know we're starting to make a shift into maybe guiding people with, we want to build a data culture. So that's something that we value, and perhaps that's something as an organization that we can articulate more clearly about why do we value a data culture, and being able to communicate that. So I'm reflecting.
That's good. And I often hear, you talk about, and the LAC team that I've known from before, they always talk about sharing, Like, it's so important to share. It's so important to feedback to the company itself to better meet the needs. So that's something too, I think, with LAC that I find the interactions I've had with their employees, they tend to really value that feedback loop.
Absolutely. Yeah, because we're not on the ground in the schools. And
Yeah.
so, we need that feedback to be able to meet schools, to give them what they need. Yeah.
And to piggyback right on what Emma is saying, our vision is to help all schools build a culture of data use. And we can't do that without that feedback loop and making sure and somehow always being careful to not lose sight of that vision. And that is why in everything we do, we always put the tagline of we're helping build the culture of data use, right? So that we never forget that if the service comes with that understanding, that eventually it should lead to that.
And that's great. Going back to this slide before, oops, I'll go back. So again, even this simple example of the actions I see as a customer or have seen is definitely showing the values and your intentions of care and feedback and, in the service. So cool.
I'm curious about at Shanghai, how that works. If you want to share, Lana, like what's the values that maybe brought you to the LAC? I put you on the spot.
Hi, Chandra. Hi. Yeah. Like what we've said before, we are very rich in data. That is at the moment all over the place. So we would like to have a one place where everyone can congregate and look at, the information that is valuable to them in a way that it's curated properly, clean data, and we are still on a starting process on that. Emma knows this. We are very new to LAC. This is our first year, so we still have a lot of things to go through and a lot to learn from everyone. That is why Emma has been seeing me in every talk, I try to learn as much as I can from experts like everyone, and then Chandra as well. Thank you for this talk. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're most welcome to be here. I'm glad I have an audience.
Welcome.
Yeah. And so what really I have found in my leadership and what has worked for me is to be very clear with my teachers from day one, from meeting me, and I present to them my values, and I tell them how I understand values. So I've been really interested in values and intentions and identity ever since I did my doctoral study and looking at international mindedness and that within IB schools. So that was kind of the beginning of my real research itch to learn more about how values shape practice. And so then there's someone you might have heard of named Brené Brown, who's kind of made this research and work so accessible and so, yeah, just really strong and succinct and just, again, accessible to anyone in any audience. So I really took hold of her work on values and kind of ran with it from there. So out of her work, she identifies values are a way of believing or being and what you hold most important. I love that. And values are something you practice. So this is what I say to my faculty as a leader. I say that these 3 values really guide me. They are, want you to know that you might see actions. And sometimes I like to acknowledge my actions as a head of school or a principal might frustrate you. But I want you to know that beneath those actions, this is what's guiding me. And when sometimes I have to make a hard call or be brave or, whatever else. And these are the things that give me the strength I need to be the best leader for the students. So I kind of just go through these little, understanding. I might frustrate people because I ask a lot of questions, or I might be slow to decide. but that's because I am reaching to have a full understanding. And growth, sometimes people want the leader to have all the answers right away. You know, what's wrong with Billy, whatever. But what I find is that growth is something I value so much because I love education. The whole idea of education is for all of us to get smarter. And I'm also allowed to get smarter. And I'm not going to have all the right answers right away, or I may not know the right answer yet, but it's more about the journey to getting it right. And then communication. Being clear is the kindest thing we can do. Saying what we mean and meaning what we say. So I kind of give this at the beginning of my journey as a leader to let people know. And then I even invite staff to hold me accountable to those values, because we know that sometimes we can be, have days where we don't live in our values. And when I know whenever I've had a hard time as a school leader, I can call upon these 3 things and say, am I living in these values? And if I'm not, then the answer becomes clear to me. So, cool. So now thinking about schools have values as well. So of course, leaders have values, but schools have values. So again, taking the time to define them. We've talked more about it at a personal, individual level. But what we know is that in the very articulation of schools' values, it can create positive and sustainable culture. So again, me sharing my values is my attempt to build a positive school culture with my leadership. But then if you do it on the bigger level of the school, it can help build positive culture. Also, when a school defines its values, the research says that it's an opportunity to live our mission and vision. So I believe that a mission and a vision are your guiding statements. That's your promise to your community. So what values do is it gives you a tangible, description of how you're going to live that mission and vision. So if I promise to be the top school in the world, that means I value academic success, for example. So it's a way to really bring those promises into the real behaviors. Hooray. So my journey to what I wanted to talk to you all about today was my kind of entry into CIS. So this is my 2nd school in Vietnam, and it came into the school at an interesting time when the school has become a part of a big group, a group school. So essentially a lot of transition has happened in the last 2 years as the school was bought by a group called eQuest. And so as a result, there's been lots of transition and handover. And so when I arrived at the school leadership team had just written their mission and vision and strategic plan. And so as you can see, it's a beautiful, beautiful mission. And I'll show you the vision in a second. But this was kind of given to me. And also this was, as a head of school, I was given this mission and vision by a school board, where I know some schools can enter this kind of conversation with a more collaborative approach. But in this school, we were kind of given this ambitious mission and vision from more of a place of authority. So you can see here our mission and our vision, which is really a goal, is to really become a top ranking school in the world. So not easy, not done in a day, but definitely ambitious. So that's my mission and vision. I'm just curious, friends, do your organizations have missions and visions or guiding statements? And we kind of touched on this already. Do you feel motivated by them? Do your staff and students know about them? So how is that going for you and your organizations?
Yeah, I think it's reaffirming to hear from you that our mission and vision at LAC comes through. Yeah. So I think yes.
Okay, cool, good.
You know about it.
Do you feel like all your staff know about it as well?
we're a really small team, and I think we're all aligned on
It's
that.
very small.
Yeah. So, and that's good. I think that's why it comes so strong to the client, you know, that you all are rowing in the same direction. Okay. So again, I think it's important for schools to think about how do we meet, you know, organizations where they're at, because we all have these missions and visions and we stick them on the wall and we might measure them. And that's part of what LAC does. We might, you know, do different things with them, but at the end of the day, they're really a promise. And so for me, I wanted to really think about how do I get this mission and vision, this promise to my stakeholders. So seeing this mission and vision, which is very common, it looks similar to other schools I've been in, but I wanted to think about how is it unique here. So when I got here, I had a whole month to do handover with the old leadership team because we have a brand new leadership team come in. So with this mission and vision, I kind of did a little bit of a research, a little bit of qualitative research. I invited students, parents, staff, both teachers and local staff. I wanted to get into their identity. Again, thinking about the pyramid, what's your identity? What do you value? And I asked simply these 3 questions to all those people. What does this school, what brings you here? What do you think it stands for? And what keeps you here at CIS? And I'll let you know that when you ask a bilingual population, what does CIS stand for? Most of them said the Canadian International School. So I had to explain a little bit. No, what do you think it means to the community? So that was really good. Cool. So then again, looking back, I wanted to have questions that really help me know what is kind of the stuff that this school holds most important. So I came into the school really looking at the identity from a very qualitative research focus. And then, what I found was people were telling me 2 of the following things a lot. All the stakeholders, we had common themes around care, integrity, and then ultimately they want to be here to be successful. Almost everyone talked about how they felt cared for, that they felt that this place cares for people, and the school's gone through a lot of transition. And even through that, students felt like the teachers really cared, staff cared for each other, etc. You know, really lovely, resounding kind of idea that care was important. But what was something that I think they wanted to hold more important, or maybe a bit of something they wanted to dig into more, was the idea of integrity. And honestly, it was more, the word they used more was transparency and even honesty and communication. But I kind of nailed down integrity because that's really what they were seeking. And also I wanted it to be CIS. So I was a little sneaky there. And then I heard a lot of people talk about that they're here. Why are you here? Well, I want to get into top universities. You know, we're a school in Vietnam with students who are getting an international education, and really they want to go abroad and they want to go learn in different schools in the country and come back and maybe work in Vietnam. So these 3 words I felt like represented our values. And then started to kind of play around with the idea with our staff when they first got here in August, and asked them to think about this and told them about my journey and said, you know, do these connect with you? So kind of, again, qualitative feedback loop of here's what I'm finding in the data. Are you finding this in your role as well? Fun times. So I then said, I want to use these 3 words to guide everything we do. So as you know, Emma, when we worked together before, I used to start our staff meetings with like, you know, that infographic with the journey, where it was like, we're here to reach the journey of becoming global citizens, and we're an inclusive school, and we want to remove barriers. So every time I framed anything with staff, I always talked about that image, didn't I?
Yeah.
And then I thought, well, that's maybe not appropriate here. So again, as a leader, you always need to look around and see what is the school telling you. Because it's very tempting, isn't it? As a leader to just, well, that worked, I'm going to do that again. But not this time. So definitely wanted to read the room a bit and use these 3 words. And I also found that in a bilingual population, and actually a multilingual population. So we have students that are speaking Korean and, Spanish, French here. So I also wanted to make our mission and vision memorable. And these 3 words captured everything we're trying to do. And you can remember 3 words that align with your school letters. So there you go. So as you can see here, we started to tie those things around together. So care, integrity, success. So we started kind of communicating them to the greater world, the outside world, as well as the inside world. But basically holding the values at the top of what we're doing. So that's fun. But then, you might remember this, Emma, is saying it out loud or posting our values enough? No. And I love this image. So if your dog poops, please pick it up, right? So again, being really clear about what do we mean by care, integrity, success. So when we talk about living into our values, that means we do more than just say them out loud. We practice them. We get crystal clear about what they mean. And then we want to articulate how our behaviors align with those values. All right. So as a school leader, I modeled what I mean by this. So in professional development or staff meetings, I wanted to be clear about how you can show me care, integrity, success, and the expectations of these PD. This is very similar to what I did before when we aligned with be safe, be responsible, be respectful. But we did this lens. Yeah. And so we talked about, we want you to ultimately take care of yourself in professional development. You can have long PD sessions and people need to take care of themselves. They also need to participate fully. And then again, reminding the teachers that professional development is about your own learning. So you make the most of your time. And so what I realized as well, and what I've learned along the way, is just saying those observations, or sorry, those expectations very, like at the beginning, it wasn't enough. I needed to get even clearer on what I meant by that. So as you can see here, I modeled for the staff, when I mean take care of yourself, this is the behaviors I want to see. You make yourself comfortable. You stand and stretch if you need to. If I'm talking about participating fully, I mean, if I ask your screens to go down, put them down. If I ask you to participate, you show the integrity that went into this presentation prepared for you. And then I talked about success. Like, again, you make your own learning goals and set your own intentions. So then you see, it's another layer of getting clear about our values. So after that was kind of launched and laid out, I really wanted to look at, okay, so we're talking about these 3 words all the time. So what do they mean to us? So again, in that feedback loop of kind of qualitative research, I had an initial study that I did through interview, and now I wanted to collect more feedback to test out, was this good? Was it good enough? Was it right? So essentially, as you can see, I had all the teachers do just a simple Frayer model. And I picked that because it's honestly really great for trying to come up with a definition. And it's also really old and tried and true that it works.
Is this with the teachers or with the students that you did this?
The teachers.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can see here, I have some examples. So they basically did this in a professional development. It was fun. So there's an example. Hooray. So then I took those samples and then put them basically, I did 3 ways. I coded them by hand. And the method I always use for coding is basically a fancy way of saying mind mapping, but it's called a thematic network. And I learned about it in my doctoral study. And I've linked the research article that shows you how to do it, but it's sort of like a mind map. And then, so I did all the 3 words differently. So I coded the care by hand using the thematic network. Integrity, this is right because I wanted to be integritous about it. I coded them both. I did it first with ChatGPT, and then I checked back with my findings with myself to see if they aligned with what ChatGPT said. So I basically did both. And this advice I kind of took away from the researcher named Lisa, I have no idea how to say her last name, Gevler. She's like the founder of Grow with Google, and she's using a lot of really cool IA to do research and do different things in education. And she always recommends to have a human in the loop. When you're using IA to do anything, always check it back, you know, with a human. So I tried to do that. And then with success, I just simply mailed that one in and just had it do it, you know, oh, that looks good. So there you are. That's what I did. Sorry, we're out of time, Emma. Should I just jump to the end?
No, you're okay. We can go till 45.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Cool. So I just took some quick screenshots to show you kind of what I asked ChatGPT to help me do. And I also learned, you know, that I took photos. You can see it's not the best photos because there's like my phone in the background in the shadow, but I just took photos and just dumped it into ChatGPT and I said, summarize it. And then I got a little more sophisticated and said, can you make a definition based on this, on the responses? Can you make it shorter based on commonality? And then I even taught it how to do a thematic network. So I basically told ChatGPT, okay, here's how you do a basic organizing and global themes. And then it did it. So I'll go through this very quickly, but basically it helped me think of my themes. So those themes would then show up in my definition. So all of this was basically to help the school craft definitions for each of our words, and then also make the teachers feel very celebrated and a part of this journey, because I know they didn't really get to be a part of the journey of creating the mission and the vision. So that was my goal. So here we are. They're so pretty. So you can see the idea for this one, which was care. They wanted ideas around encouragement and listening. So we talked about supportive environment and being respectful. By the way, I loved that my teachers talked about care with the idea of listening. I thought that was so cool. And it's true, like the best and easiest way to show care and respect is you just shut up and listen to the other person.
It was so easy.
So easy. And I try to do that more. And so then they talked a lot about looking after yourself and others, which was really cool. So I put those into the ideas of inclusive community and prioritizing well-being. So are you ready for the final definition?
Yeah.
Okay, so here it is. So taken together the themes, we defined as a faculty that care means we are nurturing a supportive environment and inclusive community, prioritizing the well-being and respect for every individual. So that was our care. So basically, I did that for all the words. I'll just go to the end. So what we mean by integrity is we acting with transparency, honesty, and respect consistently. Doesn't that sound cool? Just love it. I love it. And then here's our success one. You can see the themes that came out. determination, personal growth, having a positive impact. So then our final definition was, at CIS, we value success, and it means to strive to be your best self, balancing academic excellence with personal growth and celebrating holistic achievement. So much fun. And then, sorry.
I was just going to say, what I love about this is we talk a lot about data culture, and we talk a lot about how do you get your teachers on board and get them along for the ride in that cultural shift. And you're like, absolutely what you just said before about we have to listen. And what better way to show people that you're listening to them than by literally like collecting data on what they say and using that to craft your statements. Like, it shows such respect to your community, and I can see how that's like going to be such a big shift in creating that culture that you want to create. And I'm thinking, like, how can we do that in a data sphere? It's for making that data culture, and it's, yeah, there's a lot of very cool possibilities there, I think.
Yeah, it is a really good question about how does the data, like assessment data, for example, or even to be a bit cheeky, like, if you're tracking like behavioral data, like how many times a kid forgets their lunch card or whatever, or doesn't wear a uniform, like how do those kind of data sets show us what our kids value and don't value?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know.
And this aligns a lot with what Matthew Savage was saying, because he looks at all the, the fractals, the starry night of all the different data points, and which ones do we focus on? Well, we focus on the ones that are important to us. We focus on the ones that we value. So we need to be aligned in our understanding of what's important to us, because in some schools it might be highest DP score. In other schools, it might be happiest student, for example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the thing. I love also how the order came to be. Luckily, we're CIS, because I think care and integrity have to work together to get to success.
Mm.
And yeah, it's really cool. And then, like, when you think about our trauma informs us as well. And like, I think the school culture here with such transition, they really wanted this integrity and transparency and honesty and how we communicate that. That was really important to them. And then for them to see that reflected back in the definition, I think was really good. So we're quite happy with it. And also it gives us common language, like when we have a difficulty with a student, a parent or a teacher, we can use these values to uphold, hey, I didn't really feel respected when you cut me off in that meeting or whatever, So we're not there yet, but I do hope they become over time a really authentic way of doing that. Because you know what, I'm actually really struggling, and if you can give me advice, everyone, I'm struggling on not rubbing people the wrong way by talking about this stuff too much.
I mean, you do talk about values a lot, but you can't be everybody's cup of tea, right?
I know.
Chandra, I know we're nearly out of time, and that's my fault because I just sidetracked you. But is there anything else that you wanted to say? Does anyone have some questions for Dr. Chandra before we wrap it up? And we just got another person here to hear you to join your call.
All right.
I enjoyed it. This was really interesting, especially when you think about how schools don't do a really good job of identifying this. They do it as part of their mission and vision, and then they're gone. Then it's gone. Then you kind of move on to the daily work, and you don't live it consistently, right? So that's the piece, that the process of how you developed it is very interesting. And like Emma said, it aligns beautifully with some of our work. And maybe that's something we need to weave into our PD and our workshops with the schools.
I'm thinking the same thing. Yeah. Sorry, Shep.
Because this reflects so much. I mean, if you're not careful about the care piece, etc., you will be using data to evaluate. And so teachers, and so yeah, that culture piece, you can't put a culture of data use on top of another culture. It has to kind of weave into what's already there. So
Yeah.
how do you make space for that? Interesting. Thank you. You gave a lot of things to think about. Thank you.
Oh, no, it's my honor. And yeah, that's so well said. Like, you can't put a culture on top of another culture. Like we do have to and that's exactly it. Like in reflecting in leadership, right? Like I need to understand where the school is if I'm going to do any service to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're coming in with our values as an organization and saying, this matters to us. We want you to have a culture of data use, but perhaps we need to do that qualitative research of understanding what that means in that context for that school and aligning with their values.
Particularly with the leadership team, right? So once we get that understanding, then it's easy for us to provide the next layer of PD for them. Yeah.
Yeah, even those questions like, what do you think the school stands for? What keeps people here? And what brings people here? Those 3 questions are gold for getting to values. They're quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's really interesting doing it. People it's interesting to watch them. And it's an indicator if they can't answer it.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of that. I had a lot of people that weren't able to say, I'm not really sure what it stands for. Can I get back to you? Okay. Yeah, like the students, interesting. The students were very quick to tell me what the school stands for. But the teachers and the faculty or the operations team and everything, they weren't always sure. And so as a head of school, it helped me see that I need to get into operations and help them know what great things the school's doing,
Yeah. Guys, I'm gonna stop the recording and